And I was like, but I guess I'm doing this. And then after I graduated, I went to go work as a partner to the engineers at Tesla and SpaceX. Those were like my key accounts. And I just had to help their engineers build the production lines, which is actually pretty cool. So now I have to like tell my wife that broke and our 1-year-old, like I can't afford shelter for the family. So I now have to go to her parents and my parents.
Exactly situations use like, I personally don't want the lives of the other people that I've seen in those stages. And so to be able to take a mini step back, to be able to do what Corey and I do on a daily basis and be able to kind of leverage both at the same time.
I was like the most stoked person. I just needed that win to just take me to the next, just keep me going. So then from there, that second year, I ended up becoming a marketing consultant for a marketing agency.
So after you decided to start this company, it didn't work. What were the next couple moves you made? How did you find lending, DSCR loans, and like maybe just give us that second half of that entrepreneurial journey?
I was going to help small businesses hire remote international workers for dollars per hour, and that's I think when I got my first taste of like real life.
Welcome back to the Wealth Juice podcast. As always, it's your boys Ryan and Corey here with another episode. We are back in Scottsdale, Arizona for Immersion Season 3. Shout out to the Growth House, Jesse Ray. Today we are sitting down with Fernando Corona. He is a DSCR loan specialist. We're going to talk all things lending, dive deep. But Fernando, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, man. No, happy to be here, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. We are stoked to have you here. Take us through your journey a bit. Maybe before you got into the loan space, what were you doing? And then when did the light bulb kind of pop above your head to say, whoa, I need to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so probably similar to you guys when you started off in your sales job and you're like, this isn't it. Very similar. I graduated as an engineer, UC Santa Barbara. And then even when I was going through college, I was like, man, I don't know who's going to want to hire me because like I'm not even the best engineer right now either. And I was like, but I guess I'm doing this. And then after I graduated, I went to go work as a partner to the engineers at Tesla and SpaceX. Those were like my key accounts, and I just had to help their engineers build the production lines, which is actually pretty cool. Like I saw the Model 3, I saw the Model X, I saw the Gigafactory, like where they're building the batteries. Like I was like there when they were building all that stuff, and it was super cool, right? But again, I was like, this isn't it. Like there has to be something else other than this. That realization where the things you want to buy, the lifestyle you want to have, it wasn't going to be there. So 6 years ago, I left. I just totally left, and I thought I had my sights on my first business. I was going to help small businesses hire remote international workers for dollars per hour, and that's I think when I got my first taste of like real life. And what it felt like. I think the first 6 months, I got $20,000 in credit card debt, and I made $300, leaving a 6-figure salary. And so,
what made you decide to leave? I want to go back to the inflection point in the decision because a lot of people do, and you kind of burned the boats, and it ended up working out for you, right? After many,
we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. But so just people listening, it worked out. He made more than $300. So, but I want to go into like. You decided to leave kind of before you had it figured out, where it's interesting. Ryan and I have done this like strategic thing where it's like we both work W-2 jobs. We build a business on the side. I left. We're still building the business. Ryan still has his job. And it's like honestly, it probably is hindering us in multiple ways, like as opposed to burning the boats. But we feel that it's the best situation for us. Our lives are different. He has a child. I'm not there yet. So like it's very strategic on that route. Yeah. But I'm curious on like your decision to be like 6 years ago, I'm just going to do this without having the plan in place.
All right, man. So I don't know if this is going to inspire anybody or if somebody's going to take this advice and then just totally like be like, Fernando told me, okay. So the key thing, dude, in any decision that I'm making, I was 26 and I looked 5 years into the future and I said, do I want anybody's life that is currently in around me? My director, my VP, my CEO, like I looked around my life and I said, do I want anybody's life here? No. So if I stay here or if I stay in this ecosystem, like those are my routes. Those are my options. So it was a 100% guarantee that if I stayed, I would end up with a life I don't want.
Sounds like a pretty solid decision-making process. These are the people around me, and that's what they have. And if I stay here, that's what they get, and that's what I get. And so it makes sense.
It's just so interesting because I've realized this in the come up and recently, and like it was actually like a year ago where I was on a trajectory to go like, let's call it director, VP. And I took a step back actually, and I left the leadership team I don't dislike my job. I like what I'm doing. I love my clients. I love where I'm at. There's safety cushion there. And I don't want to say like the golden handcuffs, but like there's pride in what I do. And I think my skill sets hone in there. But on the contrary, exactly situations use like, I personally don't want the lives of the other people that I've seen in those stages. And so to be able to take a mini step back, to be able to do what Corey and I do on a daily basis and be able to kind of leverage both at the same time. Yeah. It's been the best decision I've ever made. It's a struggle because I'm working 80, 90, 100 hours a week, whatever it is, in which I'm sure you have done this at the same time. But I think there's a lot of people, what I want to get to here is there's a lot of people going through the same struggle, right? They realize they're in a point where they don't want to be at the next level that is at their current company, but they're not sure how to deal with it. And most people, I'll say 90%, will just stay there. And they'll look to the left, the right, and they'll be like, you know what? I know it's not that bad. It's comfortable. I have benefits, et cetera. Just take us through how you said, like, just burned the bridges. Did you just show up one day and say, I'm out? Like, where did you have some sort of plan in place?
I mean, it's just consistent pain that I felt showing up to the workplace where I said, hey, can I work remotely? No. Hey, can I go take this vacation? You're out of PTO days. And so it was just like this constant pain of struggle that I was feeling in that marketplace. Can I get a bonus structure? Oh, you don't get a bonus until you get to a director level. And so there's just like all these limitations that I just kept feeling. And I wasn't, to be fair, like I was only making $100,000. And so $100,000 is what, $8,000 a month? So it's not like I was making life-changing money. If somebody's making $200,000 a year, that gets even more difficult to leave. So again, my mindset was in 5 years, do I think I can make more than the people above me if I went my own route? And I didn't have kids yet. I have 2 kids now. So that's why I was like, oh, dude, represent,
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Girl dad, girl dad.
How'd you know?
Girl dad.
You knew it? Are you too? Let's go. Let's go, baby. I knew it.
That's great. So that was it, dude. I believe, so number one, like my internal belief was stronger than my belief in any other security system. And then I'm gonna be fair, like my parents are awesome and they provided that support. So I was that 26-year-old who moved back in with his parents, like said, I'm not paying bills and I'm just going to try to do this thing. And I was allowed to struggle and suffer. I had the privilege of suffering without having to worry about like, making sort of payments and stuff.
Yeah, it makes total sense. So as people know now, all they know about you is that you left your job and you made $300. So let's talk about the next stage because I want to talk about the success because you built it up. So after you decided to start this company, it didn't work. What were the next couple moves you made? How did you find lending, DSCR loans, and like maybe just give us that second half of that entrepreneurial journey and catch us up?
Do you mind if I just really quick take a step into who I had to become at that moment? Like the who is what we want to know, is more important than like the how's great. So at that 6-month mark, and I made $300. Like that was the first time I cried in losing belief in myself. Like literally I just was like, why did I think I could do this? I just remember crying in like my parents' kitchen. My dad came home and I cried on him because that was the first time I felt like a failure. Like my full on 100% effort was not good enough. And I was a failure. Like that's how strong it was in my mind that I was really hard on myself. This is before I learned the skills of disassociating my failure and results with my identity. That's a new skill. So that's critical. Do you guys know what I mean when you disassociate results from identity?
Yeah, you're not taking your who you are as a person and let your results define that. Yep. Is that a good way to explain it?
That's exactly it. So to get to whatever levels that anybody wants to get to, that's a skill that you're going to have to learn, that people have to learn. So for me, I had to the top fears in that moment was like fear of judgment, because you can imagine me going through my head like, damn, like everybody knows I quit, and now I'm failing, and I'm not successful, and I'm in debt, and like I'm living with my parents. I don't got my life figured out. All my friends are engineers and they're crushing and all these things, right? So fear of judgment was huge. I had to overcome that, right? Fear of failure. that was the biggest one that I had to learn how to overcome. And I didn't think I would have to. I was like, I've never really tasted true failure before. At being 26 years old, I think I grew up privileged and skilled and talented enough that I never put myself in true positions to experience failure. And that's like, if anybody's watching, is ask yourself that question. Have you put yourself in 100% mindset? I'm all in. If I fail, like, will that break me type of situation? And that was the first time I did it, and it broke me. But that's the start of growth.
I think that's the biggest fear most people have when leaving their job too, right? You start to, depending how long you work at a company or something like that, you hone a skill set, you spend over 10,000 hours, the Malcolm Gladwell principle, like honing in your skills to become like a master at what you do, right? And then let's say you lose your job, for example, like you're stripped away, and that's identity. You can go into the spiral of like, whoa, like I gave it my effort. Why am I the one getting, maybe laid off or fired or for something that's out of your control, right? But it's the same token for you. It's like you tried it on your own. All your identity was wrapped up in this one thing, and you're like, damn, like I just didn't make it. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy.
Dude,
but this is the inner battle entrepreneurs go through every single day. And it's just an interesting, we had someone on the show a while ago, and he goes, dude, I just want you to know, this is like, everybody makes it seem sexy online and on Instagram and things like that, but you go to war every single day as an entrepreneur. There's trials, tribulations, people are trying to sue you, like a million different things. And you have to build an army or a fortress around yourself and surround yourself with the right people to get to where you want to go. And it's just so interesting that I'm reliving the moment with you in the kitchen. And I just think it's very hard for like someone hearing that might say like, well, I'm too afraid to even go there. Like, what did you do from that moment to claw yourself out and get to success?
Dude, so, I mean, my dad loves me, right? But he was like, dude, are you done? Like, you ready to go back to like big boy job and stuff like that? And he did it, just because it probably hurt him to see me so beat up, and he probably thought I was maybe going to enter depression, and he was probably worried. So I don't think my dad's a bad person at all for suggesting that. But so the mindset shift was, I had about a $10,000 0% business credit card left, and I was looking at it. I was like, this is it. And I paid for one coaching program. It was $7,500, and I said, I'm all right. This is the last Hail Mary. I was like, I'm going to pay for this coaching program. It's going to teach me.
Meanwhile, last Hail Mary, you're 26 too, so it's like you're just getting started. But it's funny that thought process.
This I'm cashing out, man.
Okay, but that was my mindset. I literally, you're right. At 26 years old, I thought like my life is over. Like I can't. Like I'm losing hope. Literally, you're right. You're absolutely right. And reframe on like, dude, okay. So I swiped the card, pay $7,500 for this. It's my first time really investing in like a bigger mastermind group coaching type of thing. And within 2 weeks, I got my first client that paid me $2,300, and the second phone call that I had, and I was like, this works. And I went to my dad, and I was like, dude, I just got some money. And it was like, I was like the most stoked person. I just needed that win to just take me to the next, just keep me going. So then from there, that second year, I ended up becoming a marketing consultant for a marketing agency, and I was still getting paid $10.99 and stuff. But now I'm like starting to build some self-confidence and like a skill set and things like that, especially implementing what I learned in the coaching program. So I made $75,000. That's how I closed out that following year. So that was the beginning of a journey.
And so I know Corey has a couple too, just to frame this. So you swiped the card for $7,500, you had 25 to your name, but then the next 10x it, next couple of months, you had another 2,300. Can you talk about this marketing program? What you mentioned, you're an engineer for whole life or whatever, and your previous life. You went into marketing. Like, just explain. Did it have anything to do with the loans that you're in now, or this is just like a stepping stone on the way?
Yeah. So I mean, consider, right, and this is a frame that everybody needs to put on. Anybody that steps out of the W-2 world, just like a foot out, you just became a marketer, and you don't even know it. Nobody knows who you are at all, other than this person who feeds you. Right? The person feeding you knows who you are. But if you don't learn how to market yourself or market others or market brands, right? Or market Growth House, right? Wealth Juice, then nobody's ever going to find out who you are. So I just realized that that's a skill that I need to own and develop. And that's what I was missing why wasn't I getting any clients? It's because I sucked at marketing and sales, because I had never developed those skills before. So I needed to develop those skills. That's basically how it happened. And then that all compounds and all the skills add up.
Got it. So walk us through to today. You got the $75,000. You became a marketer. Now you're in the lending space. How did you get from where you were then to
into lending?
Into lending, yeah.
There's still a couple more failures.
Let's hear them.
Yeah,
I love it.
So
failure way to the top.
So 5 failed businesses, and man, where do you even go?
Well, let me ask the question. We talked about this pre-recording. What did you learn about getting punched in the face every single day? If
I had to learn how to disassociate my identity from my results, right? And my results are constantly just getting bashed in the face, So that marketing consulting, again, I left and tried drop shipping, and I built this other like sales tax business for drop shippers. And then I had my real estate. I started investing in real estate and started putting money into a hedge fund. So I started like just getting into all these different things, and I was making money. And then drop shipping. If anybody knows, like Walmart and Amazon shut down my accounts. Okay, so all my drop shipping clients lost them. The hedge fund. I think I told you this, where I had raised about $400,000 in capital for this hedge fund. And we had gotten paid out once before. So I was like, I raised more money and I put it in there, put all my savings. And I get a call, and it was a call, and I was like in Florida with some friends at a conference, and it was like the hedge fund manager. And he was just like, "Hey, Fernando, man, like the money's not coming back." And I was just like, my heart sunk. Like everybody's money that trusted me, this high that I was riding, that I thought like I was invincible. So when you go from loss to like winning, you feel invincible. And I didn't think the music would ever stop. And then all those things just start crashing down, right? And I'm just like, dang. So then now, I think I was telling you guys before, so now I have to like tell my wife that we're broke, and our 1-year-old, like I can't afford shelter for the family. So I now have to go to her parents and my parents and have a very, very, very hard conversation to her dad, who's like a Latino, that like is like the man should be able to provide for the family and take care of my daughter when I handed her to you at the freaking aisle. And now I have to go back to him and say, I can't afford to pay for mine or yours. And I need help. So that was the hardest internal breaking moment for me. But
I want to stop there really quick, because coming from someone now who's a new dad, 18 months, and married, and her father's very successful in his own right. He's currently retired, but I fear that conversation. And like, I say that to say the fact that you're able to even share that is because I know now I can say this because I know you've reached a level of success and you clawed yourself out, but like I'm living in the moment with you right there. And it's like, I hate it, because that to me is probably the lowest of low you'll ever feel. I don't think you could, I'm sure we can make up a worse situation. I don't want, knock on wood, nothing else happens like that. But like to have to not only go to your wife, that's hard. To go home and look your daughter in the eye, she doesn't know what's going on right now. And you're like, but you're looking at yourself like, what the fuck, man? Like, how did I do this? And then to go to the dad, okay, come on. Like, that's just the next level. And so all these emotions wrapped up, man. And to not let yourself tank after this again, because this is like failure, success for a little bit, bang, back to the bottom again. And you're like, you can easily get wrapped up. We talked about getting punched in the face every day. There's this one's deeper than that to me. It's like you're weaving in family and it's, you're looking at yourself and you're like, what else am I supposed to do? I've tried friggin' everything, dude. So take us from here. And Corey, do you have something?
Well, just before we get in, because the decision that you could have made, I'm going to go get a $60,000 a year job, right? And I'm going to play it safe. And I'm just going to try to just like, just do the normal thing. And you know what? Like, maybe I won't have an amazing life, but at least I can put food on the table, and just maybe you'll be bored and not fulfilled. But you could have gone that route and you didn't.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you the crazy reason why. Because my wife did say, and my parents said, why don't you just go be an engineer? And like, why don't you just like go back and go get a regular job? And then I had to say, well, my monthly credit card and loan bills are $10,000 a month. And so nobody else is going to pay me that right now. And so I was like, I don't have a choice. Like, I got to go figure this shit out. I'm sorry if I cussed.
No, I did too. I started you on that. You're fine. Okay. So let me just like, let's anchor here too, again, and we move on, but like, okay, 400K gone, but then your monthly recurring debt is 10 G's. To even go to an extended family, like, I don't know anyone, unless they're multimillionaires, that's going to be able to shell you 10 grand a month recurring.
And it was because, so credit card payments were probably 5 grand, but now I had borrowed money, or rather I just, okay, so how do I take a step here? Yeah, basically 5K credit card debt, personal loan debt, all that stuff, right? But the other 5K was just because I needed to pay the people back that put money in there and put their faith in me and trust. And I was so early in people trusting me that this was a time for my character to show up. And I was like, so I started taking out more loans to pay the people back, right? So I always protected my credit. To this day, I've never missed a payment. So I always figured out how to, just try to take care of the people that trusted me first. So that was the big one. I do want to go back. If you guys have anything to say to that, that's cool. But I just want to highlight, like, so how did I get through all this? When to your question, what was your question again? The main one? How did
just like, you kind of hit
punched in the face?
Yeah, like what did you learn about getting punched in the face every single day?
So when all of that's happening, everything's falling down. So I started to measure. This is key. I started to measure my emotional response to failure. So in the very beginning, remember when I first started the first business and it was like 6 months? The reason why it was 6 months and only made $300 is because it took me 3 months to emotionally recover from my first failure when I quit my job. So it was me quitting my job. I tried to build the business. I get my first failure and now I weep for 3 months and I don't do anything. And then I try again and I fail again, and now I'm weeping again for 3 months. So over the past 5 years, my ability to recover from emotional failure, that's what I measured. And that's what I measured my success on. So when I got the news, so I went from 3 months to 2 months, and I was like, oh man, this is working. Like something's going on here. And then it went from 2 months to 2 weeks in terms of my recovery time when I would experience a failure. And then that time when I got the call about not getting back to 400K, it was 3 days. And so that's when I was like, okay, I can do this. Like, I think I'm ready for this next level. And so that's how that happened.
I love it.
So and then the lending business now came next.
Yeah. So now we'll get into the success, right? But I just want to say, like, to recap the first, let's just say 15 or 20 minutes we had, is like, you've been punched in the face every single day. You've had failure after failure after failure, adversity, and but the thing for me, what I really commend you for is you never went back and tried to just go work for the man again. And I'm not saying like, oh, I'm against the man by any means, but like the 99% of the population would have just gone back and said, I'm going to go find it safe, make it safe again. But I feel like you believed that your purpose and you're put on this earth for something else. And you're like, dude, this isn't it. Like, I now have a family to provide for. I have people around me that are relying on me. And there's also a pride factor in like, just knowing that intrinsic value of yourself, and you're like, I'm not supposed to be there. And I know that like the system is kind of weighing you down with the debt and the people that pulled money into you. So I just want to say, like, this isn't for everybody, but like there's people like you, like we like to highlight your stories because you've overcome such a heavy amount of adversity and you've still been able to come out on top. So let's take it to the success now, because I know in the last year and a half, you found your lane, you've seen success. And I think you're now going to, through all the adversity and things that you've learned, like, it's just going to allow you to flourish and I kind of build up that fortress we talked about, and to not ever let yourself get back to where you were.
Yeah. So number one, just so people understand exactly like where the success too, like what I used to want as my income, which was $20,000 a month, has now, like, my monthly expenses to operate my business is now $20,000 to $25,000 a month, right? But in order to do that, that means you are now making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a month. So I thought that was really interesting, that as you build the business and as you grow, you have to learn how to carry debt. And who had experience with carrying debt already? I did, so like it was pretty cool how like all the failures and all that stuff, like I'm grateful in the success that I have now because I learned how to emotionally deal with the burden of carrying like expenses, right? Of carrying debt and all that stuff. So yeah, man, a year and a half ago, I said, look, I know people in real estate. I know lending. I had invested in 4 properties and partnerships and stuff, right? Like, so I had I had marketing, skills and sales skills. I said, what can I do? What can I do with this? And I spoke to a couple of partners and friends and that are in the space. And believe it or not, a lot of people told me you should not get into lending. Like real estate interest rates were at, the highest they've ever been. And people that were loan officers were not getting into the business at all. They were leaving the business because they couldn't do it. That's where like my internal belief and was like, but they don't know what I know. They haven't been through what I've been through. And so I said, this is why it's going to make it so much easier for me to get into this space. And so then the rest is history. And in terms of, me starting my own loan officer business, and then it became a mortgage brokerage. So this year alone, we're in 2024. We've now closed 116 loans. Those are both refis and purchases, mainly 1 to 4 units, some commercial warehouse stuff, but that's what we've been doing, man.
So the story of perseverance and pushing through adversity, regardless of the actual tactful information that you learned, was far more important than the actual strategy of what business you were going to go into. And that's what I want to highlight. It doesn't matter that you failed in an online VA business or you failed in any drop shipping. It's the fact that you went through that and you understood what the process of failure looked like for you to learn the new skill set for another business. It's not like you doubled down in drop shipping and you're like, I have to do drop shipping. It's like I pivoted, but now I know what failure feels like and I understand how to leverage that. That is now a skill set that you have to build your new business. So for anybody listening, in 18 months or however long it was, you can build an entirely new business of something that you don't know much about, as long as you're willing to persevere through the moments where you are down to your lowest. And that's the highlight, I feel like, of your story.
And it was based off lifestyle. When I did pick loan officer world, I really wanted to build something remotely. And I have a team of 9, 3 US based people and 6 Philippines based people. So I still developed the skill of training, virtual assistants and everything. But just looked at the lifestyle. I said, whose life do I want to live, or whose lifestyle do I want to live? Wanted to build a remote business. I want to be able to work from Mexico when I'm sipping pina coladas. You know what I mean? I want to build a business that's scalable. So there has to be a combination of very tactful experience, knowledge, but there needs to be room for people to learn, like the VAs, virtual assistants, to learn things that they can do so I can scale my business with a low overhead.
So Fernando, you talked about the lending and it kind of surface of but you niche down further and further and further. So just talk to us about the exact lending that you do, the type of loans, and how it works, because candidly, Ryan and I are in a phase of our business where the relationships and people matter so much more, and knowing that you can get a deal done and using a loan package that we've never heard about. I bet that resonates with people that are listening as well.
Oh, big time, big time. So the biggest challenge is, number one, basic conventional loan, VA loan, FHA loan, really, really strong when you're buying a primary and you have the income to support you, right? Those are not the loans that I work with. Those aren't the main loans that I work with at all. Of the 116 loans that we've closed, probably 110 of them were something called DSCR loans, debt service coverage ratio loans, where it uses the income of the property or the future income of the property to help your income out. Okay, because remember when I quit my job, how am I going to buy real estate if I don't have a job? I don't have a W-2. I don't have 2 years of tax returns, right? So this loan, I don't ask for pay stubs. I don't ask for tax returns. Sometimes I don't even ask you for 2 months bank statements. I don't ask you where the money came from. So all the partnerships or the private money, when you talk about getting your first or second property, everybody runs out of money. So how do you get that first or the second property? All 4 of my homes, I didn't buy with any of my own money. I partnered with people, but I still used my credit for 2 of the properties. And it was because of this loan type. So I felt, you can feel I'm kind of passionate about this, right? Because they're sick, dude. I'm like, dude, this is what people can use to scale their portfolio, and they don't need the excuse of being tied to, a W-2 job just so that they can buy properties.
So take us through, you kind of gave us a little bit background on the difference between conventional DSCR. Can you talk about what paperwork people need to submit to you in order to qualify for this? Is it specifically just credit score, or how else do you evaluate
credit score
to
big.
Push people through?
So there's different DSCR lenders. So I'm a broker. And so my job is if one person comes to me and they're a first time buyer, they don't own their primary, they don't own an investment property at all. We have DSCR lenders for them too. And they do need 3 trade lines, like as long as they have 3 credit cards or a personal loan or student loans, we need to see 3 trade lines that have been operating like on their credit for more than a year. And then they just need to have an over a 700 credit score and they qualify, right? And like, what documentation do I ask them for? I'm going to ask, like, we're going to pull credit, and then once we go through the process, we're going to do an appraisal, and then we're going to get insurance. We're going to get property taxes. Sometimes we do ask for social security numbers just to make sure, they're US based. But it's so like light. We're going to ask for usually just a recent bank statement just to show the money in the account, but we don't ask you where the money came from. Like that's a big one. That's a big one too.
No, that's a huge one because a lot of people will get gifted money for down payment on things, or it's like a silent partner that doesn't want their name on anything. Exactly. So I'm asking you this, and this is
sorry, and LLC docs. It's because you can close these loans in an entity, in an LLC. So we'll ask like EIN letter, articles of organization, operating agreement, and then we don't have to get super into it, but it's so that people can close in things outside of their personal name, so they can protect their credit. Remember we talked about how the loan, if you close in an LLC, the loan does not report to your personal credit, so it won't hurt your debt to income ratio.
That's key for as people are scaling their portfolio, and it's something I really want to hone in on. And so I mentioned to you, and we'll offline on this a little bit. We'll bring you into our coaching program to educate our students. But I want to, just for people to get some free game here right now. It's, we have a lot of people that will use the FHA to start. Maybe they house hack, and then their spouse will save up their next loan for this next property and kind of scale from there. But a lot of people get into the space of, like, for example, Corey and I, we're at the point where we're not trying to use any of our own money to get into our next property. We've considered the hard money lending route, then private money. We have people kind of willing to share capital with us at this point, but you need to show proof of concept. How do you weave in a DSCR in this mix? Like, at what point do people kind of jump in and come to you?
So there's 2 strategies. There's the BRRRR method, right? You guys talk about BRRRR?
Yes.
Okay, so the BRRRR method, which is you buy a property, you rehab it, and then you refinance and you rent it out. That's like the basic strategy, and then you repeat. So if you're going with the BRRRR strategy, you're probably going to buy with cash or hard money first. That's where you bring in the private money lender. You're going to put 10 to 20% down on the property. It needs work. Like it has to need work. So like work is the roof needs to be replaced. The floor needs to be replaced. You're going to add a bathroom. You're going to add bedrooms, right? You're going to permit a garage conversion. All of that increases the value of the home. So you're going to borrow money for the down payment with the hard money loan, right? And then you're going to buy the property. And once you fix it up, now the property went from what you bought it for, I don't know, $300,000 or whatever, $400,000, to what that new appraised value is, which could be your $600,000, your $500, $600, right? It depends what you buy at, for what it is. At this point, once you get that new appraised value, you do your DSCR refinance. And then now you're in your DSCR loan.
That's exactly what I need to know. That's perfect, concise answer. Thank you. Because that's for us. It's like we're trying to weave in and be as strategic as we possibly can. Don't want to go traditional financing. The banks are going to hike the rates and all this, when you get up to that new refi. So thank you for that. I will say I know we're short on time. I appreciate how long you've been here with us. One thing that we pride ourselves on is surrounding ourselves with the right people, high values, morals, ethics, and just people we want to hang around with. I feel the energy today. I'm excited to meet you in person, which is awesome.
Yeah, man.
So one thing I have for you is, like, why did you decide to immerse yourself into immersion and come here for the Growth House Weekend?
So check this out. I got rejected by Jesse. Jesse straight up, is he over here? Jesse's not here right now, but Jesse rejected me. I reached out to him. Hey man, what does it take to be on your podcast and all this stuff, right? So when I was just starting my business, I had this like belief, but I didn't have the results. And he was like, hey man, like, go get like a 80, 100K month or something, or, go, it's like, I'm only bringing on, 7-figure people on my podcast. And I was like, all right, like for me, because I no longer saw rejection as like, or failure, I was out of that mindset.
Yep.
He just gave me a goal. I was like, all right, dude, I'm gonna hold him to it. So I went out, and in maybe like 4 or 5 months, I ended up hitting like an $80,000 month. And I messaged him and I was like, hey man, I hit an 80K month. And he was like, oh, sick, dude. And then like 2 months later, I had my first $150,000 month. And then I took sent it to him and everything. And I was like, dude, I did it, bro. Like, get me on your podcast. And so he got me on his podcast. And so then that's when I knew Jesse was a super cool dude. And him and I just immediately connected. I had been following Jesse for like 2 years now too. So I've seen his co-living development. Mm-hmm. I own 4 co-living properties myself. So we had kind of connected on that too, but this was the first time that we really got a little stronger in our bond. And when he saw that I stepped up to the plate, like that also got us more opportunity. So from there, he was like, dude, like I got this immersion thing that's going on. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, man, like we should come and kick it and come check it out. So I think Jesse's presence of who he creates himself to be in the environment that he creates around him just brings people like you guys, here. And that's what brought me to just get to know him more and get to know people like you guys.
Love it. Thanks, Fernando. This is awesome. I want to just highlight, if you took anything away from this episode, which there's so many things, but if there's one thing, is that allow yourself to fail, but allow the time that you sit in that failure to be reduced significantly from what you think is possible. So instead of allowing yourself to sit in failure for 3 months, if you can reduce it to 6 weeks, and then you can reduce it to 3 weeks, and then you can reduce it to 2 days, and you can reduce it to 30 minutes, the sooner you can get yourself to reduce that time frame, allow yourself to fail, and then pivot, your life is going to be significantly changed, and Fernando's living proof of that. So we want to thank you for coming on. Do you have?
I have one more thing that I want to say. Is like, sorry, I know that was.
I thought I ended that.
It was nice, dude. But I just want him to feel good about this. So what they say, history repeats itself, or success leaves clues, or success mirrors itself. There's a lot in there. Your exact story is how we got connected with Jesse, but on the other side. So Jesse reached out to us. He had been listening to our show since 2020. And that was when we were new. We were just showing people our journey, right? Like our come up in real estate. And he kept reaching out to us. He's like, dude, really love what you guys are doing. Just like little shout outs. We have it all, receipts, screenshotted on DMs. And then at one point he reached out and he's like, dude, I'm buying my first property. I got it for this. And we're like, congrats, man. Like slowly keeping in touch, right? And like I could tell he wanted something more a little bit. He's like, he's weaving into the mix. Then another year goes by. He goes, dude, I bought 2 properties. I left my W-2 job and I'm living off the income from the property thanks to you guys and your show.
Whoa.
And we were like, dude, I literally think I called him from IG, like the IG call.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, tell me more. And like we chopped it up. Week later, he's on the podcast. And just because we're like, dude, we're sharing your story. It's full circle moment. Yes. And then fast forward to multiple connections. Like, he's the massive connector here. And then he's like, dude, we need to meet in person. We need to do this thing big. And he mentioned immersion. And we were debating between this and VPCon. And like we wanted to invest ourselves and travel the world to do the real estate thing. And I was like, Corey and I, we just met and we're like, dude, there's something about Jesse and like the people he surrounds himself with, and like, let's do it. Let's co-host the thing with him. And just like, we made it the big thing. And so one of the best decisions, like I said to Corey yesterday, we were just reflecting on the day. It's like one of the best decisions I ever made. I like finally felt like my wife texted me, and I mentioned this before. She was like, was it worth it? And I said, this is the best decision I've ever made. Most recent best decision I've ever made, because I finally feel like I'm in the rooms with the people I'm supposed to be around. And I feel like I found my place. Like I've been looking to my left and my right and the W-2, right? And like, I just feel like, not saying I'm the smartest person in the room, but like, I feel like I've elevated out of that. And it's like, everybody's asking me what I'm doing. And I'm like, I need to be asking other people. Like every Wednesday we have the podcast. That's when we get our most fire and the juice, right? And like, we feel like that the one day a week I'm around who I'm supposed to be around, but now I have a whole weekend full of it, and like meeting people like you, hearing your story, dude. So like, it's full circle. You can go knock on Jesse's door and tell him like, dude, thanks for making me do that because the juice did that for you. So like, it's just amazing to hear stories like this where everybody goes through their same journey, and like you need one person to believe in you and like give you the little push, and look what it can blossom into. So thanks for being here, man.
No, thank you.
Pleasure to get to know you.
That was awesome, man. All right, let's go pool party, or what's going on?
Pool party, let's do it.
Thanks.